Let's make Mark Carney and the Liberal Party rue the day they weaponized the Canada Elections Act against Canadian citizens. Canadian journalist Kenan Beex is currently being prosecuted under Section 91(1) of the Canada Elections Act, which states that you cannot knowingly mislead the public with false information in the lead up to an election with the explicit purpose of misleading and changing the result of that election. Now, they're going after Kenan Beex after he wrote an article with 8 separate sources, several on the record, about Liberal candidate Thomas Keeper, who is clearly a disgusting man. The article goes into detail about some sexually explicit content about his wife and unwanted advances towards her. Several real estate agents who had worked with him referred to him as a psychopath. The key point is Kenan Beex is clearly not knowingly spreading false allegations. He attempted to contact Keeper on numerous occasions to get his quotes and allow him an opportunity to refute the story. Keeper refused to make contact with him. And like I said, this is not 2 sources. This is not 4 sources. This is 8 sources in this story, a total of 8 sources. And they're going after him with Section 91(1). If anybody should be gone after with Section 91(1), it is Mark Carney, our current Prime Minister. Direct quote from Mr. Carney in the run-up to the election. All that I own is real estate and cash. Direct quote from Mr. Carney in the lead up to the election. That turns out to be completely false and undeniably, knowingly false. Carney owns assets in over 570 individual companies. 574 to be total. And over 91% of those companies are American companies. So who oversees the implementation, the prosecution of Section 91(1) of the Canada Elections Act? The commissioner, who you can reach out to. Check out the link to this video. You can put a formal complaint in. It is more apparent than ever that Carney lied to Canadian citizens in a pathetic attempt to appear, more relatable to the average Canadian citizen, because everybody knows he spent his entire career in service of elitist interests at the WF, at Davos, at Brookfield Asset Management. But the man blatantly lied. Explicit statement was, I only own real estate and cash. It turns out he has over 500 investments, 91% of which are in the United States. It is impossible that he did not know that he owned. Did he just get amnesia and all of a sudden forget that he owned over 570 different companies? Absolutely not. We need to go after, if anybody should be prosecuted under Section 91(1) of the Canada Elections Act, which is ridiculous in all fairness. It's another Liberal overreach law, which was actually struck down in 2021 in Ontario. But of course, the Liberals brought it back, and is meant to scare journalists out of reporting on stories like SNC Lavalin, the We Charity scandal, Trudeau, the most scandal-ridden prime minister that we've ever seen. The purpose is to clearly scare journalists as Canada edges more and more towards authoritarianism. But if they are going to have it on the books, we should at least be going after the actual creepy crooks like Mark Carney, who are taking advantage of the Canadian people and not blatantly not being honest to them in the lead up to the election. You cannot tell me that Mr. Carney did not knowingly mislead the Canadian people when he stated for a third time, I only have cash and real estate. And it turns out in the filings that he made after he was elected Prime Minister, he owns interest in 574 companies. As an aside, 91% of which in the United States. My God, are you kidding me? This guy's supposed to be looking out for the best interest of Canada. Meanwhile, all of his investments are in America. So if you're actually going to implement this law of knowingly misleading the Canadian people with the intent to sway an election, That is to the letter exactly what Mark Carney did. So I encourage everybody, hit the link down below and supply a formal complaint, because you read section 91.1, Mark Carney blatantly lied to the Canadian people about his assets in the lead up to the 2024 election. There's absolutely no doubt about that. We have direct quotes from him. He will gaslight, but it's not debatable. And we have to go after guys like Carney, because there's a direct relation to the way that he is governing this country. It's incredibly apparent that he is not governing on behalf of the Canadian people. He's governing on behalf of Brookfield Asset Management. The man is governing on behalf of Brookfield Asset Management. Policy after policy after policy. You say, my God, how can you allow another 1.5 million immigrants in the country when we're only building another 220,000 houses and we already have a housing crisis? Well, the answer to that question is quite simple. Brookfield Asset Management owns $37 billion with a B dollars worth of real estate in Canada, and he needs that number to continue going up. I say China just put 75% tariffs on our canola oil. Manitoba, Alberta, Saskatchewan have already been incredibly badly damaged by tariffs, yet Canada is giving a $1 billion contract to China to build 3 ferries for Vancouver. Why are we rewarding China when they're punishing our canola producers? Well, the answer, they gave $250 million to Brookfield Asset Management a couple of years ago. On issue after issue after issue, one of the few major infrastructure projects that Mr. Carney is working on is prefab housing. Prefab housing, you want to know what? Brookfield Asset Management just purchased a company called Modular. What does Modular do? Modular does prefab housing. They just announced a $25 billion investment in prefab housing. They may as well rename Canada Brookfield Asset Management, a subsidiary of China, because that is exactly how Carney is governing Canada. He is not looking out for the best interests. It could never be more explicit. 6 straight quarters of GDP per capita dropping. GDP growth down 1.6% this quarter. He's supposed to be a financial mastermind. $63 billion have already fled the country since Mr. Carney was elected, and that's because he is not looking out for the best interests of everyday Canadians. He's looking out for a small group of elites, and he lied to us. There's no other way to put it, just straight up. So I encourage you, links in my bio, please go fill out a complaint. I'm not going to get off Carney about this. He should be prosecuted. If anybody should be prosecuted, it should not be a Canadian independent journalist. It should be Mr. Carney. I'm hosting a Take Canada Back rally Saturday, September 13th, noon, Parliament Hill. Want to get tens of thousands of patriotic Canadians out. We are sick of having our sovereignty, our free speech tread all over on. If you're interested in more information, shoot me a message. Can't wait for it. If you're interested in becoming a member in the Take Canada Back movement, hit the join button. Please like and subscribe this video. If you're following on TikTok, I'm over 12,000 followers, and the Canadian government is not a big fan of dissidents. So make sure you're following on YouTube. Canadian patriots are going to win.